Today, we're taking a closer look at something truly serious, a tragic event really shaking the aviation world. That's the recent Air India Boeing 787 crash. We've gone through, well, quite a bit, news reports, official statements, the initial findings as they're coming out. And our goal here, our mission for this deep dive is to sort of unpack the key details, help you understand what happened, why it's so significant, and, the wider implications. We want to give you a clear, concise picture of an event that's frankly still unfolding without getting lost in all the noise. So let's get into it. Okay, let's start by setting the scene. June 12th, we're talking about Flight AI-171. This was an Air India Boeing 787-8, the Dreamliner. It left Ahmedabad Airport June 12th, 2025, around 1:38 p.m. local time. Destination was London Gatwick. Looked like just another flight taking off.
Yeah, but it turned out to be anything but routine. What happened next was just shocking, really devastating. About 50 seconds after getting airborne, the aircraft just lost thrust. Both engines, it seems.
50 seconds. That's almost immediate.
Almost immediate. It climbed, but only to about 625 feet. Then it stalled, started coming down fast. And the impact, horrific. It crashed right into a hostel building, part of the BJ Medical College in Magani Nagar.
Into a hostel, not near the airport boundary? Or...
No, right in a populated area. It's quite shocking, the location itself, aside from the awful human cost. Very unusual for this kind of incident. And the human cost is just, well, immense. On the plane, there were 242 people. That's 230 passengers and 12 crew members. Tragically, 241 of them died in the crash.
Oh, my God.
And it wasn't just contained to the aircraft. On the ground, initial reports say over 38 people were killed as well.
Yeah.
So the total number of fatalities is already over 279. It's just a staggering loss of life. Really puts the scale of this into perspective.
It absolutely does. Such a terrible tragedy. And yet, amidst all that, there's this one detail that's just, well, almost unbelievable. A sole survivor.
One person, a British passenger, reportedly in seat 11A, walked away from it.
Walked away from a crash like that.
Apparently so. The odds are just astronomical. It's an incredibly rare outcome in such a catastrophic event.
Okay, so we have this absolutely devastating crash scene. The immediate question, the big one, is why? What were investigators seeing right away? What were the first clues on the ground?
Well, one of the very first things noted, and it's critical, was the deployment of the ram air turbine. The RAT.
The RAT, okay, that's like an emergency generator, right? Small wind turbine.
Exactly. It pops out to provide basic power if everything else fails. It's really a last resort system. Seeing that deployed before impact is a very strong indicator. It points towards a complete loss of power from both engines during takeoff, a dual engine failure.
Both engines failing at the same time right after takeoff.
Yes. And that's the really significant part here. This is the first fatal crash involving a Boeing 787 ever, since it entered service back in 2011.
The first one for the Dreamliner.
The first fatal one. And for a dual engine failure to happen that early in the flight on what's considered, one of the safest, most modern planes flying, it's not just rare, it's exceedingly rare, almost unheard of.
Because these planes are designed with so many backups, right? Independent systems.
Precisely. Redundant engine systems, separate fuel lines, backup power. Everything is designed to prevent exactly this kind of simultaneous catastrophic failure, especially right after liftoff. It means somehow multiple independent safety layers seem to have failed together or been bypassed.
That really does challenge a lot of assumptions about the safety of modern jets, particularly a flagship like the 787. So does this finding, this apparent dual engine failure so soon, immediately point fingers? Does it suggest maybe a systemic issue with the plane, or is it just too early?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And yes, it's too early to say for sure, but that's exactly what investigators are focused on. Was it a one-off mechanical fault? Was it something related to maintenance, fuel, or something completely unexpected? India's AAIB, the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau, they're leading the charge, working very closely with the DGCA, India's aviation authority.
Okay, so the AAIB and DGCA are on it. What specifically are they looking at? What kind of data, what evidence are they piecing together?
It's an exhaustive process. They're going through everything. The flight data recorder, the cockpit voice recorder, the black boxes, those are absolutely crucial.
I heard one might have been damaged.
There are reports one was severely damaged, yes. That makes things harder, definitely. But specialists will be working nonstop to retrieve whatever data they possibly can from both units. Beyond that, they're scrutinizing all the pilot communications, ATC tapes, the aircraft's maintenance history detailed logs, plus any CCTV footage from the airport, maybe even near the crash site, and they'll review all the emergency procedures, what was done, what should have been done.
So a really wide net. trying to capture the whole sequence.
Absolutely, leaving no stone unturned.
Right. So given the severity and, frankly, the shock of this, what's been the immediate fallout? For Air India and maybe the wider aviation world.
Well, for Air India, the operational impact was immediate and pretty significant. As a precaution, they've grounded, well, not grounded exactly, but they're doing inspections on all their other 787s, all 33 of them.
All of them. Okay.
Yes, and that's led to cancellations. At least 8 international flights were canceled initially as they work through these checks.
Then what about the regulators, the DGCA?
They reacted very quickly, too. They've demanded complete training records for pilots and dispatchers from Air India, and they've also mandated new emergency drills at all government airports. Those have to be done before the end of June, so pretty tight deadline.
You can really see the ripple effect, can't you? How quickly the system reacts. When something this serious happens, it underlines how vital safety is.
It does. These actions showed just how seriously the industry takes an event like this, even if it's incredibly rare. Looking forward, everyone in the aviation world is now waiting for the preliminary report. That's usually expected within maybe 3 months or so. It won't have all the answers, but it should give the first really critical insights into what might have caused this terrible crash. It sets the stage for the full investigation.
And it's important to remember why this matters to you, listening at home. These investigations, driven by tragedies like this, are what constantly push safety forward in air travel. They lead to real changes in aircraft design, in maintenance checks, in pilot training that ultimately make flying safer for everyone. So, just to recap our deep dive today, we looked at the awful details of the Air India 787 crash on June 12th, the terrible human cost, both on board and on the ground, that incredible, almost unbelievable story of the sole survivor from Seat 11A, and the critical early finding the R8 deployment pointing towards that extremely rare dual-engine failure right after takeoff, plus the immediate and widespread response from Air India and the regulators.
Yeah, and it really leaves us with a heavy question to think about. I mean, how does something like this, a dual-engine failure on a modern, state-of-the-art plane like the 787, something so statistically unlikely, how does that challenge our basic ideas about aviation safety, about redundancy? What new questions does it force us to ask about aircraft design, about how we do maintenance, and, how we train pilots for the completely unexpected?